What happens when faith, calling, and courage converge in one life? Today, I'm your host on Welcome Becoming Bridge Builders, Dr. Keith Haney. We're a community of people who feel the tug of our hearts and a calling from God to lead with wisdom, courage, and compassion in a deeply divided world. Today, we are joined by a bridge builder who's opening worlds for the next generation through the power of literacy and leadership. Christianne Meneses Jacobs is an author, educator, and president of Nika Gal Media. Born in Nicaragua and raised in Los Angeles, she holds a master's in curriculum and instruction and is a certified reading specialist. She's also the host of a Latin book chat podcast. Today, diving into her vital new resource for young leaders, Professional Life Skills for Young Adults, 7 Keys to Empowering Career Readiness.
Hey, you awesome folks! Thanks for taking this journey of discovery with your guide, Keith Haney. You're listening to the Becoming Bridge Builders podcast, your favorite podcast for everything from racial reconciliation to education innovation, justice reform, and leading change in the 21st century. This podcast is for people who love to be challenged with difficult topics, but want practical solutions to solve these challenging issues. Becoming Bridge Builders makes change possible. Each week on the podcast, Keith invites innovative thought leaders to share how they are building bridges in their area of expertise. You will hear breakthrough ideas and concepts that are changing the world. He's featuring guests who are best-selling authors, leaders at Microsoft, entrepreneurs, leading educators, professors, lawyers, and so many more. Listen in to learn how you can be the bridge to the change you are seeking.
Christianne, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so good. This is a great topic. We always like to help young people out, especially as they're starting their journey and career. So looking forward to the words of wisdom you have for our young audience.
Oh, of course, yes. Thank you.
I'm going to ask you my favorite question to kind of get us warmed up. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Oh, my parents have always told me that I know that the answer to something I'm going to ask for is going to be no, but that I should always be persistent and also don't give up too easily and wait for that no to become a yes.
I like that. That's really good advice. How do you apply that kind of daily in your life?
Well, usually, people feel that when they get a negative answer, that it means a definite no. But I think it means not right now. So I circle back later. And
Yeah, that's always a
I
good.
don't take it personally.
Yeah, no, that's a good approach to life because it could be not right now. Maybe now is not the right time, but
Hmm.
you ask later down the road, it could be the perfect time. So I like that.
Exactly.
So your book, Professional Life Skills for Young Adults, arrives at a critical time when so many young people are entering the workforce feeling unprepared for unwritten rules of professional life. As a reading specialist, you see the literacy crisis firsthand. We have young adults who can read words on a screen but struggle to comprehend contacts with a clear message. So how does this gap in literacy impact their ability to execute the 7 keys outlined in your book?
Yes, it's really been very hard for teachers, and educators because we're getting all those children that were learning during the pandemic. And the pandemic was extremely detrimental, not to just their social skills and emotional well-being, but also in terms of literacy. Yeah, we're getting students who are having a hard time comprehending what they read. And it's very difficult. We see it in schools every day. We're not over that hump right now. We're working very hard for them to be able to understand. It's they're growing up also in a time when social media is very common. They're not talking to people in person. A lot of the young adults, because of the pandemic, didn't have the opportunities to have in-person jobs or in-person internships, and that has been detrimental to them becoming social, to their socialization. They don't feel confident talking to people in person or picking up the phone and calling somebody. And But my book is very simple. It's written in very simple language. I'm not written in any academic language. It's very simple. It has a lot of examples that they can follow. And it is written at such a level that a middle schooler can understand it. Yeah. So I'm hoping that that makes it more relatable, the fact that it has a simple language that they can understand. And also it would be good if the parents read it with them, so that the parents can follow with them and guide them and probably give them more examples from their own lives.
It's funny you mentioned the parents too, because I see a new trend happening in the workforce where even some young people now bring their parents along on the interview. Have you discovered that as well?
Yes, yes. In fact, it was one of the reports that I read when I was researching for my book. Intelligent.com said that 19% of college grads bring their parents to a job interview. And not only that, they also ask their parents to negotiate the contracts for them. So I ask parents, please let your children become adults. You're not going to be with them all the time. So it's okay if you're going to drive them to the interview, but do not go with them into the interview. But for me, as if I were an employer, that would be a huge red flag. Like this, this student or this young adult cannot survive on his or her own without the parents.
So let's get into your 7 keys. I love the fact that you have 7 keys. And the first one to me is really important because I grew up at a time when you might dress a certain way off, off duty, not at work, but for work, you had a professional dress about you.
Yes.
So your first one is your personal appearance and how that affects your career. So kind of walk us through some of the things you cover, because in this day and age of not wanting to offend people's individuality
Yes.
and their uniqueness, there's still a certain decorum expected and etiquette in the workplace. Kind of walk us through how you address that very sensitive topic in your book.
Yes, it is very important, of course, to have your own personal style, but there are protocols to follow, expectations, like you said, a professional etiquette of how you need to dress when you come for an interview, because you want to present your best self. You want to present somebody who, when you're dressed well, you feel confident, you feel good about yourself, and you reflect that, you portray that to the employer or the future employer. So it's very important to dress well. So there are some ways, that the young ladies can wear some basic slacks, make sure that it's not blue jeans, and a nice skirt that is below the knee. So that's very important, not to wear something too short. And a very nice blouse, which is not on a dark or neutral color, and mostly solid colors, so that they are not very confusing or they're not very bright colors. And it's not something that is going to attract, or make them feel uncomfortable, attract a different kind of perception. And I'll give you an example. There was a young lady who came to my daughter's job to ask for to apply for one of the jobs. And she showed up wearing sweatshirts and a sweatpants to the interview. My daughter says that she looked like she just rolled out of bed. So that is not what you should be wearing when you're going for an interview. Even though this was not like an executive position or at a big company, still the perception is and the expectation is that you're going to present yourself the best. You're going to look your best so that you feel confident when you walk into that interview. So, of course, unfortunately, she left a very bad impression and she didn't get the job. And talking about impression, that is one of the things that people need to be aware of, especially young adults, that you only have one opportunity to make an excellent first impression. That's it. And it takes seconds. And it's very important to present yourself in a very good way. Yeah. Another thing that I talk about in my book is make sure that you shower that day that you go to an interview and that you brush your teeth, because you're going to be talking to people you don't want to have bad breath. You don't want them to smell what you had for lunch or you had for breakfast or what, So I talk about those things. You would think that is common sense, right? Like but apparently it's not. So I talk about
One
that.
other thing you haven't in one of your keys, and I think it's interesting because it's something I've noticed a lot more of, tattoos and piercings. I know people who love their tattoos. They're very proud of their tattoos, but those tattoos and those piercings, especially multiple piercings, can be a turnoff because you got to realize the generation of the people that are hiring you. They may not have gone to the tattoo parlor you went to or appreciate tattoos like you do. So how do you talk about that with people?
Yes, that is a very sensitive topic, especially, Nowadays, like you said, there are a lot of people who have tattoos. So it depends on the company. There are not rules, there are not laws that say you cannot hire somebody because of their tattoos. Like there's no discrimination there. There's no law that says that. So it depends on the company. And for that, the young adults need to learn more about what is the company expectation and what do they say, especially about tattoos and piercing, because there are a lot of like companies that they're okay with that, but some that are not. And you have to maybe cover them up or remove the piercing during your working hours. So we talk a little bit about that, how you, as a young adult, you need to really know what is in the employee handbook so that you are not in violation of any of the expectations of that particular company. Because each company has their own employee handbook and their own culture too. If there some are more accepting of that kind of artwork, which is part, is considered to be First Amendment right, of self-expression. But also you cannot tell somebody I'm not hiring you because you have tattoos and piercing. That would be considered discrimination. But the company has a right to say, these are the expectations. If you're going to work with us, you need to follow them. So that's
I
that,
love it.
that's a sensitive topic, that's for sure.
Yeah. So let's jump into key two because a lot of key two I think is important too. What's the benefit of a polished resume? And I've heard all kind of people talk about, they want their resume to stand out. So I know some people will put it on colored paper so it stands out. And so give us your thoughts on like the colored paper resume versus this kind of resume, just a little bit about resumes.
Oh, the resume. That is very important. And like you said, do not please use any color paper. Do not use any fancy fonts, especially because now AI is reading your resume. So it's called the applicant tracking system. Like there are not real human eyes that look at the resume anymore. So AI, especially this applicant tracking system, only can read simple font, nothing fancy, and simple text, and also in bullet points, which is more important. Nothing like in the past we used to write like a short paragraph of a description of what we did, and it was mostly like a list of tasks that we accomplished. Now that doesn't fly. The applicant tracking system is now in what it's doing is trying to match what is the description of the job with what the words are on your resume. So my advice is that the young adults please take a very close look at the description of that job or that position and grab like 3 or 4 important words from that job description and match them with the resume, to include them in the resume and to make sure that they are bullet points. And not just that, what it wants to also see is what you have accomplished. Don't just say, that you probably talk to people all day and you help them solve problems. Say something like, every day I talk to a group of maybe 500 people, and I also accomplish, what would they say, something about, I help them with their problems and I help them solve 90% of what they're asking for. so that it wants tangible, documented accomplishments instead of just something generic. So that is very important. It takes time because nowadays the young adults, the people, not just young adults, but everybody who's looking for a job, they need to tailor the resume for that specific company, that specific organization that they're applying for. Instead of using the same generic resume for everybody. So that's something to keep in mind about the resume.
Love it.
Yes, please. No fancy fonts, no pictures, no emojis, no nothing, or no columns. It's just simple text. Really boring. that's what the applicant tracking system is looking for. Really boring. But that it tells a story, not just of what you have accomplished, or a list of a task that you have done, but that you have accomplished and that you have something tangible to offer. So that's what's important.
Let's talk about the interview process. In my role, I have conducted in 1 year probably 300 to 400 interviews, just helping a church find a pastor. If you're trying to help someone prepare for the interview process, what are some key things they need to be aware of? And I even like you have done like the day before. What do you do the day before? I've had people walk into an interview, know nothing about the organization, know nothing about the company or the product that they're trying to sell or buy, or where they're located. So kind of give us some do's and don'ts in the interview process.
Yes, yes, something important, especially before you apply for a company or an organization. Do your homework. Know what the organization does, what the company does. Find out. Nowadays we can find anything on the internet about what this company does and what is it that they accomplish for their customers. So be very aware of that. Also, do not go into the interview and say, "What does your company do?" That is a red flag. It's like, no, you didn't do your homework. They expect you to do your homework. Make sure that you practice also with your parents, or maybe a mentor, or maybe a teacher. What some of the questions that they might ask? Like some of the questions might be, what do you expect to accomplish in the next 5 years in this role? What are some of your weaknesses? What are some of your strengths? And when ask you about weaknesses, do not mention a weakness. Actually turn what they would call a weakness into a strength. Flip it around so that you are not saying I'm weak in this, but make it into that is a strength. Like for example, say something like, instead of saying I take too long to do my projects, or you say something like, I am very I am going, something to the effect of like, I take a long time to accomplish my task only because I know I want to make sure that I'm doing it right, and that I am also very confident in what I'm doing, and I want to present a very good product or a very good project or something like that. That would turn it into something very positive and strong, instead of like being a weakness. Um, Make sure you know where you're going and that you arrive at least 10 minutes earlier, because if you arrive on time, you're late. So that is important. I make sure that you assess for traffic. So I usually, if I haven't interviewed for a job in a long time. I've been at my school for many years. But I always made sure that I left my home like half an hour earlier. And sometimes I just sat outside until it was like, maybe if my interview was at 3, I sat outside. If I arrived at 2:40, I would sit outside for like until 2:50, and then I would go, inside, 10 minutes earlier. That's very important. When you go into the interview, make sure that you have eye contact. Make sure that you shake hands. You're very strong. You introduce yourself. You present yourself very well. Do not interrupt. Make sure that you listen very carefully to the question. And don't start making, answering the question in your mind while the person is asking you the question, because then you lose track of what is happening. Make sure that you sit up, and that you look confident. Don't slouch, like this. That's so just be confident, maintain eye contact, and listen very carefully. And make sure there is something important that somebody that I interviewed for my book when I was doing my research, she told me that something very important is to send a thank you note to the person who interviewed you. This person, he works in marketing, and she told me that if a person she interviews, an interviewee does not send her a thank you, she doesn't pass them on to the next level. That's it. She's done with them at that level. Why? I said, because then they're not showing their best. She cannot trust somebody at a job if they cannot even show their best during the interview process. So it's just a quick note, thank you so much, Mrs. So and so, for interviewing me. I want to reiterate that I feel that I'm the best candidate for this position because of this X, Y, and Z. And I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much for your time. Simple, very easy. Send it through email, or sometimes if you have the address, send her an actual note, letter, handwritten note. That's something different that will make sure that it stands out.
I love it. I like the last part of one of your keys and resign with integrity. I always tell people whenever you leave a job or leave a position, don't set the house on fire while you're still in it.
Yeah.
Um, because people do talk. And if you
Mhm.
leave even a job you don't like, but with a good a final impression, they may recommend you and they're going to contact your former employer.
Yes.
So if you left with a bad taste in their mouth, they're not going to say nice things about you.
Nope. Nope. So it's very important, if you don't enjoy your job, if you find out that this is not the position you were expecting, that this is not what you were looking for, it's okay. Let your employer know and give them 2 weeks, at least 2 weeks. That's the minimum you should leave. Let your employer know that you're leaving the position. And it doesn't have to be anything, like long, like, dear Mrs. Brown, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to participate and be a part of your organization. I want to let you know that I will be leaving this position on such a date, and give a date. I appreciate it very much. I have learned so much. Um, but at this time, I feel that I need to leave this position. But thank you so much for your help. I learned a lot. Thank you. And that's it. Doesn't need to be very long. But that, instead of the quiet quitting that people talk about, that you just don't do anything and you're just expecting somebody to fire you or something, don't do that. Just have some integrity, and also respect for the organization that took a chance on you. Because like you said, people talk. And then, you burn bridges, and then you don't have a very good professional, the people are going to think you have a very bad professional etiquette, and you're not good. And they're going to talk and say, no, don't hire that person. They're going to quit. So
Right.
you want to leave the organization in good terms and to make sure that they recommend you in the future.
So key number 3, I think, is one that's really critical: social skills.
Mhm.
What are the keys, especially in today's digital society, of being likable, especially in the workplace and with coworkers?
Yes, this is very important. I tell young adults, be approachable, be friendly, smile, say good morning. Sometimes I say good morning and nobody answers. I'm like, okay, whatever. But I feel good that I said good morning. How are you? And get to know your coworkers. People nowadays, especially young adults, they don't want to talk to people, which is such a weird thing to me, you know. So, but especially the people in the main office, they are the gatekeepers of everybody else in the organization. So make sure that you are very nice to them, just because, not just because it's in your best interest, but also because it's just nice. Just be nice. Be friendly, ask your coworkers about their day or their weekend, or about their children if they have children. It's just being friendly and approachable, and just establish that connection, that human connection, A lot of people just want to be on their phones all the time and scroll on their Instagrams or Facebook, but they're not establishing that human connection that is very important, especially in the workplace. Also, when you are talking to your coworkers, you have to remember that it's not the same way that you talk to your friends. When you walk into your job, that there's a line that you're crossing there between your life as, your normal life to a life of your, um, especially your professional life. That's what it is, your professional life. So your language has to switch. You may be calling people Mr. Smith or Mrs. Brown, but don't call your boss or your supervisor by their first name unless they ask you it's okay to call them by their first name. But it is important that you treat them with respect, you treat the organization with respect, and do not treat your coworkers and your boss or supervisor, the same way you treat your friends. That is, the language has to be different. Your language has to be more professional. And also, your body language says a lot about how you feel. You have to match your verbal communication with your body language, because you might be saying something, but your body language is giving a different idea, is sending a different message. So it's very important that those two, your verbal communication, verbal language, matches your body language.
All right. So this next set of questions is going to be hot button questions because I've seen this. I've seen the pitfalls of this so much lately in the media. With your background in media and your work with Nika Gal Media, what is the biggest warning you give young adults regarding their digital citizenship?
Oh, yes. That is very important. My goodness. Yes. Please clean up your social media. They're absolutely looking at your social media. Anybody who is hiring you, they're going to look you up, on the internet. They're going to find your Facebook, your Instagram, LinkedIn, Snapchat, whatever it is, clean it up. I talk in my book specifically about topics you should not be talking about in your social media. Do not talk about drugs. Do not talk about alcohol. Nothing that has to do with pornography. Nothing about guns or violence. Nothing about like discrimination or against ethnic groups, because that's going to be seen by your prospective employer. And so how do you clean it up? You have to make sure that you are portraying a professional appearance, not just in person, but also through your social media. Being professional is the most important, okay? Because if I were to hire somebody and this person comes in with me, a young man, and he looks presentable, he looks nice, he speaks really well, he answers very well, I'm excited about hiring him. But if I go into looking at Instagram or even X or Facebook, and I see that this person is partying, all day, all night, is using drugs, and is getting all excited about, these women that I'm with, I'm like, that is a red flag about the morals of this person. What is this person's ethics? They don't match what I saw in this person. So I'm going to be very cautious about that. And sometimes employers have even withdrawn offers to people, to young adults, when they discover who they actually are in real life. So it's very scary. So clean up the social media, make sure you remove posts like that. And from now on, make sure that you're portraying somebody who is very professional. So that's very important.
I like that. You said something I think is really important too. Clean up your past, but also be very careful of what you put on social media going forward. I've seen people lately, especially young people, who got upset with something politically and went on social media and had a rant, made death threats, and all of a sudden they got fired. And they're like, I don't get it. I don't get why I got fired for this. I'm like, do you really not understand why your employer fired you? Because it's like they just seem totally oblivious to the fact that, well, this is free speech. Why are they
Yep.
mad about this?
hmm But yes, exactly. But you have to think about the consequences of that free speech. The consequences are going to be bad. If your employer sees that. In fact, there was when Mayor Mandami was elected, and he had I think he was going to hire a woman he had known for a long time as a communications director, I think. 12 years ago, she made a comment that was anti Semitic on X, and that comment came back 12 years later, and Mandami didn't hire her because of that. Yeah. Even though she had helped him win the campaign, he had helped him win, was very good at what she does. 12 years ago, she made that comment, and she wasn't offered the job. She got fired. She didn't even start. That was very sad. So we have to keep in mind that we need to make sure we know what we're putting out there. It's very, very crucial, for young adults to make sure that they clean up their social media. Make sure that they look presentable. They're always looking professional. And like you said, none of these crazy rants, because, I have the right to say whatever. That's fine, but don't do it on social media. Don't do it. Yeah. It's going to come back to
Yeah.
bite you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, emotionally vomiting online is probably not a good idea.
Yes. Yes.
And let's talk about key number 7, money matters. Managing your financials effectively. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh my goodness. It's funny because I'll tell you a story. The first time my daughter, one of my oldest daughter, had a job and she got her first paycheck, she asked, what happened to all my money?
Who's this
Where
FICA
did
person?
it go?
Why do you
I'm
take
like,
all my money?
yeah, she's like, I had to sit her down and like, guess what? We have to pay taxes. We have to pay federal taxes to Uncle Sam. They want a piece of what you earn. We have to pay state taxes too. They want a piece of what you earn, because taxes are important. We have to pay for roads. We have to pay for teachers and police and firefighters and schools and all the things that make our society better. So we all have to contribute to that. So there goes that. So she was a little bit, disappointed about that. And also Social Security. We have to contribute to Social Security and all the different taxes and whatever you benefits are. All of that gets deducted. But what you get is important because I would like young adults to start thinking about contributing to their future with their first paycheck. Maximize your 401k. If your employer is offering a 401k and they add to it, they contribute part to it, take advantage of that. And not only that, also contribute to a Roth IRA because by the time you are in your 70s, that money is going to be tax free. And who knows, you might be in the millions back then. So it's important also to maybe contact an accountant or also a financial advisor who can give you advice on how to invest your money. So a lot of people, say, oh, I'm living paycheck to paycheck. Right now it's very hard. Everything is expensive. It's very hard for young adults to live on their own. A lot of them have come back home to live with their parents, including my daughter, So it is very hard to rent an apartment, even with a roommate. It's very hard. So, but still contribute a little bit. Don't spend it all. Don't spend every single penny. Make sure you have a cushion. Make sure you have a little bit of money set in a special savings account that you can draw in from if things become very hard or if you have an emergency with your car or a medical emergency, you have a little bit of money there to help you. I sometimes I get very stressed out about that. And I put a lot of money into savings or investing, because I get a little very stressed out about that, It's like how much money, you need to have. It's important that you have enough for your needs and a little bit for your wants. Not everything that you see out there you need. There's some things that are wants, and you have to make sure that you can differentiate between the things that you need in life to survive and the things you want. So if it's something that you want that is very expensive, you need to think about it. And maybe you need to save for a few months to buy that one thing you want. I'm not saying, don't give yourself, something nice once in a while. But it's very important that you have enough money for your needs. No, don't be asking your parents, for, I can't pay the rent, or your grandparents. You're an adult now and you need to be responsible for your life and for what you're doing. But if you live at home, make sure you contribute a little bit to the expenses of the household. So that is very important. And that you help out. Don't expect your parents to be doing everything for you. So help your parents. That's what's very important. They work all day. It's very stressful, the jobs that they do probably. So help them out a little bit. But the most
I love
important
it.
thing is to please make sure that you're young right now. You're in your 20s. Think about the future. If you want to have a nice retirement, start saving now because time is in your benefit right now. The longer you save, you know, compounding interest is going to grow. Your money is going to grow higher and higher every year. The younger you start saving and investing for the future.
So I'm going to ask you a couple lightning round questions. What's the most important habit for a young professional to start working on tomorrow?
Be on time.
Mm,
A lot of these young people think, I'll get there in 5-10 minutes to work. No, be on time. It's very important to get to your job on time. And that means 10 minutes earlier, 20 minutes earlier, because if you start at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, that's late already. But also, I would say ask questions too. A lot of kids don't ask enough questions. And then they don't understand what they're supposed to do. So listen very well to what your supervisor is asking you to do and then repeat it and say something to the effect of, what I understand you're telling me is that I should be doing X, Y, and Z. Is that correct? And if your supervisor says yes, then you understood what you are supposed to be doing. But if your supervisor says, no, let's clarify. Just make sure you have clarification. Don't leave the office, thinking, what was I supposed to do? What am I supposed to be doing? Did I understand okay? Make sure that you ask questions. Please ask questions. That's something important.
great. So, Christianne, what do you want your legacy to be?
That's something, that's a very good question. I would like people to say, you know, she worked hard to make this world a better place. I want to make sure I leave this world better than if I wasn't here. You know, I know that
Yep.
I try to do that with my students. I've been teaching for 27 years now, and one of the reasons why I teach is because I transform lives. I change lives. My students become better people. My English language learners learn English, and that offers them the opportunity to access the curriculum, to have more opportunities in this country. So that to me is very important, to make the world a better
What's your
place.
What's your favorite Spanish word for bridge building?
Creando vínculos, which means establish a personal relationship with people. Make sure that
Oh, I like that.
yes, that's what it means. Establish personal relationships. I think those are very important.
So, where can people find you? Where can people buy your book, Life Skills for Young Adults: 7 Keys to Empower Career Readiness?
Yes, I have my book right here, you know, and you can find it on Amazon and you can find it on barnesandnoble.com and also at bookshop.com. So I hope you know that now is the time, when people are graduating. They can find me at nicagal.com, nicagal.com, because I'm a girl from Nicaragua, nicagal.com.
I like that. I'll remember that forever now. Well, thank you so much for sharing your heart, your experience with us today. You are truly equipping the next generation to lead with courage. And I want to leave you with this final thank you for being on the show and providing such great content for all of our listeners. If this show inspired you, we encourage you to do a couple things. First of all, connect with Christianne at nickagal.com and listen to her podcast on latinobookchat.com. Subscribe to this podcast. If this conversation brought you clarity, brought you ideas to starting out your career right, subscribe to Becoming Bridge Builders and share this episode with some young person you want to mentor or a student. Until next time, lead with compassion, stand in your courage, and keep building those bridges. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Do you know that most entrepreneurs hit a revenue ceiling and have no idea why? They're working harder, spending more money, running more ads, but revenue stays flat. My friend Dr. Noah St. John calls this the invisible break. He's giving our listeners a free revenue ceiling audit to help you see what's really holding you back. You'll get a free 30-day membership to NoahBot, giving you access to Dr. Noah's 30 years of experience to help you reach your next level. But hurry, because there's only 50 available this month. So if you're tired of being stuck at the same revenue level and want to finally break through, get your free revenue ceiling audit at drnoahvault.com in the affiliate link that'll be listed in the show notes.
Thanks for listening to Becoming Bridge Builder. If you enjoyed this episode and want to help support the podcast, please subscribe and share it with others. Post about it on social media or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from me, you can follow me on Instagram at @bkeithhaney and on Getter and Twitter @RevHeadpin. Thanks again and tune in next time.